Well, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
Sometimes, when someone has nothing real to contribute, they just talk endlessly, filling the air with noise instead of meaning. And that's exactly the problem with the women on The View. Their rants don't reflect what the majority of Americans actually believe. They live in their own bubble, detached from everyday people, spouting the same tired talking points while dismissing anyone who challenges them. It's no wonder so many viewers are fed up, shaking their heads at the arrogance on display. For years, Whoopi Goldberg has sat at the center of it all, treating the stage like her throne. She interrupts guests, shuts down debate, and presents her own opinions as if they're unshakable truths. But one moment flipped that script completely, a moment where her control unraveled before the cameras. And the spark came from Karoline Leavitt, who exposed Whoopi in a way that left the entire panel stunned.
Something to behold. Here is her assessment of Trump's new White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
At first, the episode began the same as always, smirks, sarcastic laughs, and panelists echoing one another in perfect sync. The conversation turned toward wokeness, a topic The View has practically turned into its religion. For them, defending it is second nature, a reflex they can't seem to let go of. Confident as ever, Whoopi leaned back and took her shot. With that trademark grin, she aimed straight at Karoline and sneered that without wokeness, she wouldn't even have a job. It was delivered like a knockout punch, the kind of remark Whoopi believed would shut down the conversation right there.
I would like this young lady this is her first job, I would like her to do a little homework. Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation.
The audience shifted nervously, sensing the insult went too far. Even Joy Behar, who has made a career of mocking conservatives, looked uneasy. The tension was thick enough to cut. Whoopi thought she had landed a clever blow, but what she really did was open the door for a devastating response. Karoline didn't flinch, didn't fumble, didn't lash back with cheap one-liners. Instead, she paused, gave a calm, knowing smile, and prepared to turn the tables in a way that no one, not the hosts, not the audience, saw coming.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now, as
I'm
for
sorry,
this
guys.
debate,
We're going to come back out to the panel. Karoline, thank you very much for your time.
That was so good.
After the show, Whoopi tried to frame the exchange like it was just more proof of conservatives whining about bias. She insisted that Karoline was making excuses, claiming debates and elections are rigged. She tossed out the usual deflections, trying to wave away what happened. But when the cameras were still rolling that day, it was obvious Whoopi wasn't ready for what hit her.
In a statement afterwards, this young lady claimed her, quote, on-air snub proves that you-know-who will not be treated fairly in the upcoming debate. Now, do you think this is going to make people doubt whether CNN can stay objective, or is this more the same of, everybody's against me, it's all rigged, I tell you. Is everything rigged?
No, it's their MO. That's what they do. Rachel Maddow said last week, she's like, if the election is lost, it was rigged. If there's a debate, then the moderators are probably biased and they're prejudiced against me.
Karoline came back with undeniable facts, real data that couldn't be brushed off with a smirk. She laid out how taxpayer dollars were being spent on programs so outlandish, so far removed from everyday priorities, that they drew stunned reactions even from neutral observers. She talked about government funds pouring into gender studies in foreign countries, children's programming being reshaped as vehicles for activism abroad, and a laundry list of initiatives that raised far more eyebrows than applause. With precision, she connected the dots, showing how wokeness had shifted from a cultural idea to a political tool, one used to silence dissent and punish critics. And that was the moment Whoopi stopped smiling.
Divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
For years, Whoopi had wielded her role on The View as a weapon, shutting down conversation with ridicule and controlling the flow with sheer force of personality. But Karoline's calm dismantling of her jab left her on the defensive. She pressed further, highlighting how President Biden had used his platform to smear millions of Americans as threats to democracy, simply for believing in putting their own country first. She reminded everyone that it wasn't radical to want secure borders, a strong economy, or a military capable of defending the nation. These were common-sense priorities that the hosts of The View pretended were extreme simply because they came from the other side of the aisle. The words cut through the noise like a blade. Viewers saw something rare. Whoopi Goldberg caught off guard. Instead of firing back with her usual sharp tongue, she shifted uncomfortably, fidgeting, visibly searching for a response that just wouldn't come. Karoline pressed even harder, talking about how cultural Marxism had crept into schools, universities, Hollywood, big tech, and the media itself, warping the way a generation saw its own country. She called out the indoctrination of young people into division, by race, by gender, by ideology. And sitting across from her, Whoopi had nothing. No quick comeback, no clever deflection. For once, she was cornered.
You know, we have seen cultural Marxism trickling its way through every institution in this country. The public school system, the higher education university system, Hollywood, big tech, the corrupt mainstream media that I fought against in President Trump's White House are indoctrinating my generation of Americans into hating our country, hating one another based on race and gender and all of this other BS, quite frankly.
The silence that followed was deafening. Even the audience, normally quick to clap on cue, hesitated. Some exchanged awkward glances. For all the years Whoopi had controlled the stage, here she was, trapped in her own words, exposed in real time. It was a moment so sharp, so unexpected, that even the crew seemed unsure what to do, linger on Whoopi's frozen expression or cut to commercial and save her the humiliation. And the bigger question emerged. If wokeness was really about tolerance and inclusion, why did it always seem to be conservative women who were attacked and dismissed? Why was diversity celebrated only when it fit into a narrow ideological box? The contradiction was glaring, and in that silence, it became undeniable.
The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason, because black people couldn't get into colleges, because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our...
Joy Behar tried to lighten the mood with a nervous joke, but the damage had already been done. The unthinkable had happened. Whoopi Goldberg, the queen of daytime dominance, had unraveled on live TV.
You know, listen, if you don't have anything to say, you blab. You just go on and 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 on. Right. That's what you hear. Yeah. When they don't have anything to hold you with, nothing to make you think about what they have to say.
The clip spread online like wildfire. Memes, reaction videos, endless commentary flooded social media within minutes. Viewers couldn't get enough of watching Whoopi lose her grip, and Karoline's poised response turned into one of the most talked about moments the show had seen in years. But this wasn't just about one exchange. It was part of a much larger pattern of Whoopi's controversies that had plagued The View for years.
They talk at you, not to you, and that's what she was doing, and she was doing it, and it's not new.
No.
But everybody's hip to you all now.
Yeah.
And we are anticipating that you are not prepared. Because you keep saying you going and you preparing when you're on the trail.
From tone-deaf remarks about the Holocaust to bizarre defenses of questionable figures, Whoopi had dragged ABC into scandal after scandal. Lawsuits piled up, with stars like Carrie Underwood and even Elon Musk striking back against defamatory comments made on air. ABC had poured millions into damage control, trying to contain the fallout from Whoopi's loose tongue. The Carrie Underwood lawsuit was particularly explosive. After Carrie performed at Trump's inauguration, the panel tore her apart, mocking her career and aligning her with hate. But instead of backing down, Carrie hit them with a $1 billion lawsuit. When it went to court, leaked documents showed that ABC had orchestrated the smear campaign intentionally, just to drum up ratings. The revelation shook the industry, and ABC quietly paid out a massive settlement to bury the story.
That you saw live on this program yesterday. Joy Behar stirring the pot of controversy after saying this about Karoline.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
Do you want to take this?
So you cannot be attractive and smart? I will try to give Joy the benefit, and oh, thank you. I try to give Joy the benefit of the doubt that she didn't see that briefing. Because if you saw that yesterday on numerous topics, no big binder, I think she might have had a different impression of this young woman who held her own.
Then came Elon Musk, who launched his own legal battle after the hosts repeatedly painted him as dangerous, spreading false claims about Twitter under his leadership. With advertisers already pulling out due to nonstop controversy, the lawsuits only deepened the cracks in The View's once untouchable status. And now, after Karoline Leavitt's appearance, Whoopi found herself once again at the center of the storm. This time, though, there was no one else to blame. She had walked directly into the trap, dismissing a young conservative woman's achievements as nothing more than wokeness. But Karoline's resume told a different story. From her work in Congress, to her run for office at just 25, to her groundbreaking role as the youngest press secretary in American history, she had earned her place.
I mean, you would have to give her the benefit of the doubt that she did absolutely no research or reading about anything dealing with Karoline Leavitt before she made that remark. Because Karoline Leavitt she went to St. Ansel College, she worked for WMUR
Ran for Congress?
In New Hampshire. She ran for Congress at the age of 25, put out a very good campaign.
The contrast was stark. While Karoline was rising through grit and accomplishment, Whoopi seemed to be coasting on decades-old reputation, clinging to a platform that increasingly revolved around outrage rather than thoughtful debate. It all built to one final breaking point. Whoopi launched into a rambling defense of wokeness, insisting that without it, women wouldn't have a seat at the table. She tried to reframe history, painting wokeness as the sole reason women had opportunities at all.
She lost by 8 or 9 points, but she still put on a good campaign. Then she was the press secretary for the Trump campaign, going on TV literally every day.
Well, heavily pregnant and a new mom.
Pregnant. Yeah, she's a new mother. And then she goes out yesterday and gives and this, again, this is speaking very objectively, because I've watched every press secretary since going back to Marlon Fitzwater. Yeah, I'm that old. And she went out there for her very first briefing at the age of 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever, and did a terrific job.
But her words were circular, confusing, and failed to address the point Karoline had raised. By then, the audience wasn't buying it. The clip made its way online, and instead of sparking sympathy for Whoopi, it fueled more criticism. People began openly questioning why she still had a seat on The View. For years, she had been the face of the program, but now she looked like its biggest liability. And then, quietly, ABC made its move. They framed it as Whoopi taking a break, but insiders knew the truth: she was pushed out. Her clash with Karoline had been the final straw, the moment that exposed the weakness no one expected to see. Without her iron grip, The View now stands at a crossroads. Will it continue down the same path, hoping to survive with more of the same? Or will it finally change course, acknowledging that viewers are tired of being talked at instead of listened to? One thing is clear: Karoline Leavitt did what no one else had managed to do for years. She exposed Whoopi Goldberg's crumbling dominance on live television. And that's a moment people won't soon forget.